Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me okay. Today I'm trying something a little bit different in that I'm going to do something that I'm going to record on video and hopefully be able to post on YouTube, Instagram, other social media sites, and to make into a bit of a podcast episode. Something I'm going to be starting today, talking a little bit about teaching. And so this is going to be the first episode in a series I'm calling the Teacher's Lounge. I'm going to start a series of discussions around teaching because I've been moved to think more about what it means to teach, especially now that we're struggling with these issues around the COVID-19 shutdown and what it means for education going forward and the difficulties that this new reality is presenting. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I'm thinking around first steps for teaching in this new upcoming school year. So these first steps are going to touch on a few points that I will go into more depth on. And the first point I really want to talk about is expectations. One of the reasons I think that we saw the end of the school year where a lot of students disappeared, fell off the radar, so to speak, is because when this whole COVID-19 event took place, when the shutdown took place, students had no clear expectations about what to do and what was expected of them. And that's entirely fair. I'm not complaining. I want to be clear. I'm not attacking or complaining or criticizing about the way things played out, because how could you? It was entirely new territory. Nobody knew what to expect, and there are still lots of unanswered questions and big question marks around what to expect in the future. But a couple of things that I think we can check off about what to expect in the future would be that this is not going to be over when we head back to school in the fall. In fact, I think one of the things that we can be absolutely certain about is that we will probably go into distance learning and shelter in place as a nation on more than one occasion in the coming school year. And so that has to be part of the expectations that we put out there for the students, that they should expect and we should be expecting to not be in the same room, to not have a consistent environment in which we're all together to go over the content and to discuss learning. That it's going to be a mishmash, a hodgepodge, a dog's breakfast. I love that term. I don't love the reality of that term, but I like that term. That learning's going to be a real mixed bag. So the expectation is that we are going to have a rocky path in front of us, and that the expectations are being addressed by understanding, clarity, communication, accountability, equity, and responsibility, both for teachers and for students. That's, I think, where we have to go with this. Starting out the year has to be made very clear to our students that we have expectations of each other. And whatever happens, whatever the future throws at us as a group, as a cohort, as a community of learners, that we are going to follow these expectations and hold each other accountable. So with that, if those expectations are very clearly laid out by teachers for students, then we can expect a greater amount of success and engagement from our students over the course of what promises to be a very chaotic year. Clear expectations. That's where I want to start today. That's where I want to start this discussion in the Teacher's Lounge, as I'm calling this this series of communications. Clear expectations. Teachers need to lay out clear expectations even more now than they would on the very first day of school. Those first days of school, teachers always sweat them. Kids are paranoid and afraid. What to expect? Well, teachers often spend a lot of time trying to put kids at ease on that very first day. And we should continue to do that as teachers. But we should also ramp up the expectation talk and say, look, this is worth it. You wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here. And anything that takes this much time and effort is definitely worth it. You do the hard things because the easy things aren't worth what the hard things are worth. And this is hard, right? Education, learning, taking responsibility, growing up. That's the hard stuff. Teachers are here to help. That needs to be expressed as well. But expectations. Laying out what they can expect and what is expected of them. And this year, I think we have to take, as teachers, as educators, I think we have to take additional time to make sure that that is a discussion that doesn't just come and go. Oftentimes, maybe I'm not the only one who's noticed this, but oftentimes those first days come and go in a rush of excitement as kids are back from the summer and they see their friends again. And those important papers and those important, guidelines, rules, expectations talk, they kind of go out the window. I know I've often told kids that I expect them to read the syllabus for my course, and they never do. I can almost guarantee they won't. And in past years, I would often use my syllabus as the foundational piece of my course, and I would go back to it and make the kids pull out that syllabi or that syllabus and refer to it, read it with me, so that they knew that I was looking at it, and I expected them to look at it. So the syllabus became something that I constantly brought out again and again. And if kids lost it or threw it away, I gave them another copy. And if they lost that, I gave them another copy because I expected them to throw it away. But I also wanted them to know that I expected them to know what was in it because I was holding them to that expectation. So this year, the expectation has to be a little bit different than in past years, whereas expectations might have been something around, doing of homework, behavior in class, communication, respect. Those are all there, of course. I'm not getting rid of anything. I'm only amping up, altering, and adding to what we would already do as teachers because this is a different year. So the expectations that I would add would be that there's more expected of students in the future because we're not going to be together, because we're going to have to face adversity and we're going to have to not have the consistency that we have grown accustomed to in the past. So I would make that very clear. I expect more of them. And they can expect more of me too, right? In order to overcome the difficulties of distance learning, teachers like myself and others are going to have to change our game. Do more of what needs to be done and rely less on what has worked in the past. It's a growth opportunity, and that can be scary for teachers as well as for kids. So I would explain to them that I am expecting more of them and that they can expect more of me in terms of outreach, compassion, consideration, second chances. Those are things I'm willing to extend. Definitely. I think that's a no-brainer. But of my students, I would make it very clear that the following are things I expect of them more this year than in past years. And that's an understanding on their part that they understand that expectations are going to be greater and different. I also expect them to work on their own. I'm going to be using the flipped classroom model, and I'll talk more about that in another Teacher's Lounge message that's coming in the next couple of days. But I'm going to expect that they make the most of the time we do have together. The flipped classroom model puts a lot of expectations on students to do the work, the passive learning outside of class. If we are together in a classroom, I can't have my students show up to find out what they need to know. They need to walk in with questions about what they don't understand already to make the most of the time that we do have together. I can't do the passive learning and the active integration and the deep dives, the inquiry questions. I can't do all of that in the short amount of time that I'm going to have with a small number of students that come to my room. In past years, I've had 36 kids in a classroom. I've had 5 classes of each. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I don't know how you can fit 36 kids in a traditional classroom, each 6 feet apart, wearing a mask and maintaining that social distance the whole time. Schools weren't designed for that. So the expectation is that we're going to have to approach it a little bit differently. We're going to have fewer kids in each class. And that number is being worked out right now. But it's going to be less, not more. And that can have benefits. And we'll talk more about that in another day, another Teacher's Lounge message. But I would make it very clear to my students that because there are fewer of them in front of me and because there is more time away from each other, that the expectation is they're going to not turn off and get lost and give up. I expect them to fight on through adversity and to know that I'm there to help them if they struggle. I can text, I can pick up the phone, I can email, I can do a video chat, I can do anything. I can be there, just not physically all the time. And I would make that clear to them. I expect them to reach out to me if they struggle. And I expect them to show up having already gone through that struggle at least once. They don't have to show up with all the answers. That wouldn't be what they wouldn't show up if they did have all the answers. There's no reason for them to show up if they had all the answers. But I want them to show up with all the questions. I want them to show up with all the questions. And then when we're together, I want to answer those questions with them, not for them, with them. Because I'm not going to answer the questions for them for the rest of their life. But I'm going to teach them how they can have the skills necessary to answer the questions for themselves to their satisfaction for the rest of their life. Critical thinking. That's what lies at the heart of my teaching. Critical thought. How are these kids going to think critically when I'm not sitting next to them or standing over them or sitting or talking in front of them? So they should show up with the questions, and we'll walk through those questions together. And I'll also tell them that they can expect me to give them more questions to deepen their understanding. And they should also expect, and I make this promise every year, this is not a new expectation. It's probably going to be a new approach, but not a new expectation. One of the expectations I tell my students to have is that they will be better at the end of our time together than they are at the beginning. I feel like that's a basic expectation that any educator can make of themselves and offer as a promise to their students, that by being together and going through this journey and learning these things and gaining these skills, they will be better at the end than they are at the beginning. I kind of couch it to them in this way, and this is part of my first day speech. I say, look, this is not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And if it was just easy, or if I didn't challenge them, if I didn't call them out, well, think about that. Think about that in terms of anything other than teaching an academic class, or in my case, U.S. history. Suppose you showed up for a sports team, baseball, softball, volleyball, football, And suppose you lost every game by a huge lopsided outcome. Football. Let's go with that because it's so popular. I don't know why, but it is. And suppose you lost every football game 64-0, but the coach said, "Oh, good job, you did great. You should feel proud of yourself." Well, that's okay, I suppose. But would you call that a good coach? Would you want to be a part of a tradition that left you no better off at the end than you were at the beginning, but gave you a pat on the back? Anybody can give you a pat on the back, and we all should give each other pats on the back. I'm nothing against pats on the back. But I think we all know that it's not a good coach. And that would not be a good teacher. If a student or an athlete was consistently underperforming and not getting any better, the question has to be asked, what's that teacher doing to improve the outcome for that team, for that athlete, or if it's a teacher, for that student? So I tell them, I won't accept falling short. Failure is a learning experience, and that's another lesson, another topic for another Teacher's Lounge conversation. But I say, let's walk through those failures together and learn from them, right? Failure is only bad if you don't learn from it. And then I will push them to grow and learn from their failures, learn from their shortcomings, so that at the end they are better than they are at the beginning. That's, I think, what learning's all about. And that's what teachers are all about. Good teachers. So the expectation is that they will try, that they will have a greater investment at the beginning of the year, that they have more on their shoulders, more responsibility for their own learning, but that they're going to be supported and they're going to be improved all throughout that experience. So clear expectations. That's my message for today. I want to just mention that this is the beginning of a series I'm calling the Teacher's Lounge, where I'm going to be talking about teaching, my approach, ideas that I have, and I invite your comments. I invite your questions. If there's a topic about teaching that you want to hear about, if there are questions that you want answers to, I can't guarantee I'll have them, but I'll definitely give effort and energy to finding out what other people think about it. I want to encourage you to send messages, comments, suggestions, and I'll give you a shout out. I'll definitely give you a shout out. If you're interested in learning more about e-learning, I also want you to check out studydojo.org, as well as the Study Dojo Facebook group that I've started. I'm going to post a lot of information on those pages. If you go to studydojo.thinkific.com, you'll find the course that I've recently put out there, United States History to 1877. I'm going to be using a lot of my best ideas around teaching, around the teaching of the curriculum in U.S. history for at least the first half of the school year. And I encourage you to consider signing up for that course and walking through that journey with me as well. Anyway, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Just wanted to say thank you for listening, and I hope that you'll subscribe to this. You'll give us a like. You'll spread the word. Hashtag History Dojo, hashtag Study Dojo, hashtag Teacher's Lounge. And let others know that there are conversations being had about this and that you can be part of it. Intelligent, caring, compassionate teaching is essential work. First responder work. And right now, it just seems ever more important that we understand that and that we bring our voices together to remake education in a better way. So, my name is Tyler Rust. I'm the writer for History Dojo. I'm the e-learning entrepreneur at studydojo.thinkific.com. And I really am grateful for you being here today. Thank you so much.